There we are. Hey, good Monday morning, everyone. Hey, Judy Hatch and Kip Horvath is with us. It's really great. I'm coming to you from my home here in Dearborn. Sandy Sauerbeck, good morning. Hi, Nancy Horvath. Scott Johnson, good morning. Barry and Margot, good morning to you. Hi, Helen England. Everybody's doing well after that nasty day yesterday. Man, it just didn't, no snow accumulation to speak of here, but it did snow almost the whole day. Talked to our son Josh over in Grand Rapids. They did get some of it stuck, not much, a little bit. I'm sure north of here it did. Hi, Gene Hardwick. How are you? Hi, Ken Woods. Helen England, Art Hughes, Larry and Carolyn Thomas. Hi, Tracy Krutz. Good day to drink coffee. Hope everybody's doing well. As I said before, it is November 15th, the middle of, let's see, 30 days, half September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31. Except February, which has 28. But, not quite halfway, right? I guess maybe at midnight tonight it'll be halfway through November. Well, I hope everybody is staying warm anyway. Tracy Krutz, hello, and Don Jones. Linda Wolf, hello, and Judy Sutherland. We're up to 17 devices that are watching. There's more people than that. I hope you all had a great weekend. We're starting to think about the holidays in our own family, what that's going to look like. We're going to have an unusual holiday here. And the fact is that we are not going to have 2 out of our 3 sons won't be here with us over Christmas. Now, they're getting older, so that's going to happen, but it just turns out that they're busy working, both of them, and so they're going to come up just after New Year's. But our oldest son, Josh, is going to probably be with us, I'm sure, at least for a day or so. But he will not be able to be with us when Tom and Chris are here because he starts the last, well, it's a 1 year, but it's the last section of his physician assistant studies. It's his medical clinical rotations. So that actually starts on that Monday. So don't think that he'll be able to make it. Maybe he'll come over for dinner. We'll see. But anyway, that's Christmas. That's a long ways off. We still have Thanksgiving to get through. So we don't have any real news for you today. We got some things going on this week. We've got our stewardship committee is meeting after this, 10 o'clock. Finish up that stewardship plan to roll that out, and trustees meet at 7 p.m. Tomorrow night via Zoom, and I think that's about it as far as church stuff goes. It was a busy week last week. We need to catch it up a little bit. Just catch our breath a little bit. All right, so we are going to begin our devotions today with Psalm 57. So let's listen for the word of the Lord for us today. Be merciful to me, O God, be merciful to me, for in you my soul takes refuge. In the shadow of your wings I will take refuge until the destroying storms pass by. I cry to God Most High, to God who fulfills his purpose for me. He will send from heaven and save me. He will put to shame those who trample on me. God will send forth his steadfast love and his faithfulness. I lie down among lions that greedily devour human prey. Their teeth are spears and arrows, their tongues sharp swords. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth. They set a net for my steps. My soul was bowed down. They dug a pit in my path. but they have fallen into it themselves. My heart is steadfast, O God, my heart is steadfast. I will sing and make melody. Awake, my soul, awake, O harp and lyre. I will awake the dawn. I will give thanks to you, O Lord, among the peoples. I will sing praises to you among the nations. For your steadfast love is as high as the heavens. Your faithfulness extends to the clouds. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth. May God add his blessing to this reading of his holy word. Okay, and now, I'm not going to go back and do Friday, Saturday, Sunday readings, but we're going to pick this up, and we're still talking about the same era. That's very East Coast sounding, right? I noticed that during sermon that I used the era, but this era of in the history of the nation of Israel, which is post-exile, but it's during the Persian Empire, rule of the Persian Empire, and we're going to be reading out of Ezra, which Ezra and Nehemiah are contemporary. Think Nehemiah is a governor that was sent from Persia to govern the kingdom of Judah. Not a king, just a governor, just to make sure that things are done according to the way that the king of Persia wants, the emperor, more or less. But he is Jewish, and then Ezra is a priest, and it's important. And he was actually in Babylon, so he hadn't left. So again, they're contemporary. So, and this is about, like, if it's 587, and then 587 BC is when the Babylonians overtake Jerusalem. 537 is when Cyrus defeats the Babylonian Empire, beginning of the Persian Empire, and then says to everybody, go back, in fact, and then rebuilds the temple. And then this is about 60 years after that. In fact, there's about 60 years between Ezra 6 and then what we're going to read in Ezra 7, which would put Ezra to be a really, really old guy. But we all know that, and it's not doesn't make the Bible any less truthful. And we all know that as things are passed down, sometimes timing gets a little messed up. I know that my wife and I, when we talk, I'll say, do you remember when we were at this place and this happened? And she goes, that didn't happen there, it happened over here. But it did happen. It's just our memories of exactly where it was differ a little bit. The other thing with Ezra, so the king that's going on is not Cyrus at this point. The king here is Artaxerxes. And Ezra 6, just before this, this happened under Xerxes, one of the forefathers of Artaxerxes. Again, about 50 years. This would have been, and Xerxes was the king who married Esther. Okay? So maybe that helps a little bit. Ties these things together. All right, enough of that. But what we're talking about is this return to Jerusalem for the purposes of reestablishing the ordinances of God as was handed down in the law of Moses. So here we go. This is Ezra chapter 7, verses 27 through 28, and then we're going to continue on with chapter 8, verses 21 through 36. So let's listen for the word of the Lord. Blessed be the Lord, the God of our ancestors, who put such a thing as this into the heart of the king, to glorify the house of the Lord in Jerusalem. So I'm going to stop there, right? So thanking God, blessing God. So to put this in the heart of King Artaxerxes, right? So that the house, the temple, the house of the Lord in Jerusalem might be glorified. So giving thanks for that. All right, and who extended to me steadfast love before the king and his counselors and before all the king's mighty officers. I took courage, for the hand of the Lord my God was upon me, and I gathered leaders from Israel to go up with me. Pause there. Go up is not really accurate. It's going across. They were in Babylon. And this is not a small trip. This is a long trip, but he was told go, right? Go. But he's thanking God for the fact that he's been given permission to do this. All right, now we can go to chapter 8, and pick this up here. So that was just to set the context of where we are. And now he's in Jerusalem. And he's a priest. Remember this. Then I proclaimed a fast there at the river Ahava, that we might deny ourselves before our God to seek from him a safe journey for ourselves, our children, and all our possessions. I'm going to stop there. He's not in Jerusalem yet. He's on his way to Jerusalem. For I was ashamed to ask the king for a band of soldiers and cavalry to protect us against the enemy on our way, since we had told the king that the hand of our God is gracious to all who seek him, but his power and his wrath are against all who forsake him. So we fasted and petitioned our God for this, and he listened to our entreaty. Then I set apart 12 of the leading priests. Now here's a couple names. Luckily, he doesn't name all of them. All right, Sherebiah and Hashabiah, and 10 of their kin with them. And I weighed out to them the silver and the gold and the vessels, the offering for the house of our God that the king, his counselors, his lords, and all Israel there present had offered. I weighed out into their hands 650 talents of silver and 100 silver vessels worth talents, and 100 talents of gold, 20 gold bowls worth 1,000 derricks, and 2 vessels of fine polished bronze as precious as gold. And I said to them, you are holy to the Lord, and the vessels are holy, and the silver and the gold are a freewill offering to the Lord, the God of your ancestors. Guard them and keep them until you weigh them before the chief priests and the Levites and the heads of the family in Israel at Jerusalem, in the chambers of the house of the Lord. So the priests and the Levites took over the silver and the gold and the vessels as they were weighed out to bring them to Jerusalem, to the house of our God. Then we left the river Ahava on the 12th day of the first month to go to Jerusalem. The hand of our God was upon us, and he delivered us from the hand of the enemy and from ambushes along the way. We came to Jerusalem and remained there 3 days. On the 4th day, within the house of our God, this is the temple, the silver, the gold, and the vessels were weighed into the hands of the priest Meremoth, son of Uriah, and with him was Elzar, son of Phinehas, and with them were the Levites, Jozabad, son of Jeshua, and Noadiah, son of Benu. The total was counted and weighed, and the weight of everything was recorded. At that time, those who had come from captivity, the returned exiles, offered burnt offerings to the God of Israel, 12 bulls for all Israel, 96 rams, 77 lambs, and as a sin offering, 12 male goats. All this was a burnt offering to the Lord. They also delivered the king's commissions to the king's satraps and to the governors of the province beyond the river, and they supported the people in the house of God. So ends this reading of the word of the Lord. All thanks be to God. So they are coming. They are joining people that are already there. But the people that are already there, there was some confusion about whether they were doing things right. So they come here. They come bearing gifts, right? And the gifts were from the people, the Hebrew people that had remained in Babylon. Not everybody came back, although they were encouraged to, and also from the king. So, and we also know that Cyrus, when he said rebuild the temple 50 years, 60 years before this, had said, hey, take everything that Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple and return it. So, and it's also here, I don't know what a satrap is. I'll have to look at that up. talk about that tomorrow. The governors of the province beyond the river, right? That's people that were further out. So remember, this was a big empire. All right, we'll go on. Go on to Revelation. Maybe we're getting to the end of Revelation, because we're in chapter 20 now, and it's verses 7 through 15. And this is talking about the definite end times. So there was a very, very popular book series, and then it was actually made into a movie series, not in the theaters. I think it was on TV, called Left Behind. It was really a lot of people. This was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And two guys wrote it, and boy, it generated an awful lot of interest, right? And it was a narrative, fictional narrative of about, if how would something like this play out nowadays? And so this is the end times. So there's a theological term for that. It's called soteriological. Soteriological. That means the end times, right? How things end up. This is what we're reading about here. Let's listen for the word of the Lord. When the 1,000 years are ended, I better stop there because we missed this, right? There's this thing called the 1,000-year reign, right? So things are actually going to be pretty good for a bit. It's a 1,000-year reign. And so that's called the millennium. So different people's aspects of this playing out. You're either premillennial or postmillennial. Think about that. That means that if you're premillennial, it means that you don't think that 1,000 years has started yet. If your belief in the soteriology, how it ends up, is postmillennial, it means that 1,000 years has already happened, and that we're in to the real, truly end times. So I don't know if that helps you or confuses you a little bit more, but here we go. And it's tribulation, pre-trib and post-trib, the tribulation. Here we go. When the 1,000 years are ended, Satan will be released from his prison and will come out to deceive the nations at the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, in order to gather them for battle. They are as numerous as the sands of the sea. They marched up over the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camps of the saints and the beloved city, that's Jerusalem. And the fire came down from heaven and consumed them, and the devil who had deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet were, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. So this is how it ends up, right? Then I saw a great white throne, and the one who sat on it. The earth and the heaven fled from his presence, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and the books were opened. Also another book was opened, the book of life, and the dead were judged according to their works, as recorded in the books. And the sea gave up the dead that were in it, death and Hades gave up the dead that were in it, and all were judged according to what they had done. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And anyone whose name was not found written in the book of life was thrown into the lake of fire. So ends this reading of the word of the Lord. So again, this is a revelation, a dream of the playing out of the last times. And so what we missed was the tribulation and the millennial, that reign of Christ, right? But this is how the evil is going to be ultimately defeated, and thrown into the lake of fire and imprisoned and killed forever and ever. And it talks about the final judgment of all, the living and the dead will have a final judgment. Jesus talks about that judgment in Matthew 25. And Jesus says, hey, when the time of judgment comes, when I was hungry, did you feed me? When I was naked, did you clothe me? When I was in prison, did you visit me? And when people say, well, we didn't see you. And he goes, well, if you did it to the least of me, you did it for me. So that plays right into the judgment that we're seeing here in Revelation. It's not just what you do when you think people are looking. It's what you do when people aren't looking. All right, we'll go into Matthew chapter 17, verses 1 through 13. Okay. Matthew. Jesus on his way to Jerusalem. And this is the transfiguration. It doesn't just happen in Harry Potter. It happens in the Bible. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and his brother John and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. Then Peter said to Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will make 3 dwellings here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While he was still speaking, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud a voice said, This is my Son, the Beloved. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him. When the disciples heard this, they fell to the ground and were overcome by fear. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, Get up and do not be afraid. And when they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus himself alone. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus ordered them, Tell no one about the vision until after the Son of Man has been raised from the dead. And the disciples asked him, Why, then, do the scribes say that Elijah must come first? He replied, Elijah is indeed coming and will restore all things. But I tell you that Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him. But they did to him whatever they pleased. So also the Son of Man is about to suffer at their hands. And the disciples understood that he was speaking to them about John the Baptist. So ends this reading of the Word of the Lord. All thanks be to God. Boy, I am glad that I got to this at 20 after 9. So it gives us a little bit of time. This is just chock full of theologically significant things and happenings. It's not just a story about Jesus becoming dazzling white. It's a demonstration of Jesus as a continuation of the covenant that God has made with his people and the salvation of his people, what the Jewish people believe. The Hebrew belief was that the salvation didn't occur until Elijah returns. And remember, Elijah was a major prophet, and he did not die. He was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind. And they're saying when Elijah returns, right, that's when God is breaking in the kingdom, right? The kingdom is going to happen. So here they are, and so these Jewish people, Peter, and James and John. James and John are the sons of Zebedee. Zebedee means thunder. So, and then we have Peter, irascible Peter. He is the greatest disciple, and also the one that loses his mind at times, right? And that's what happens here. So he takes these 3 people up, and they go up onto this mountain, and then he was transfigured, right? He becomes dazzling white. His face shone like the sun. This happens in the Bible another time, and that happens when Moses ascends into the mountain, right, and goes into the cloud, and he speaks with God, and when he comes down from that moment on, his face was dazzling white, and in fact, he had to wear a veil over his face from that point on. So, evidence of being touched by God and interaction with God. So, and then Moses, right, the person who God had delivered the law, and then Elijah, who's talking about the major prophet. They're both there. Right? Peter goes, he doesn't know what to do. I'll make 3 tents here. One for you, right? One for Moses, one for Elijah. There's no real meaning for that, other than the fact that he's just, I don't think Peter's a guy that can just let silence happen. I think he's always got to fill a silence with words, and I think that's what he was doing here. And then we have this cloud, just like on the mountaintop in Exodus. And God speaks. And he's done this before. This happened at his baptism with John the Baptist. This is my son, the beloved. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him. Same words. Same words. So this is a demonstration to the disciples that this is just a continuation, right, of God's action. And again, he said, don't tell anybody, right? And then, but he puts this thing, he says, because they say, why did the scribes say that Elijah must come first? The disciples say that. Because they say, well, we just saw Elijah. And Jesus is saying, well, look, he came. John the Baptist shows up 500 years after the last of the prophets in the Old Testament. And it's very clear that, they said he dressed as a prophet. He wore a belt, leather belt, and he wore a jacket made of animal fur. Like this is what prophets would wear. And he, locusts and wild honey. This is what prophets eat. So establishing him as as a prophet. And Jesus is saying this was Elijah. Elijah returned. Nobody saw it. Nobody saw it. So there's a very big theological statement being said here. You've heard that from me if you've ever heard me preach on the Transfiguration. All right. Oh, look at this. You guys are talking up a storm here. I got to find out what's going on. We need help at 8:30. Or, I'm sorry, 6:30 tonight, moving food from the main building to the fellowship building. And the scouting food drive. Okay, I assume the scouts are going to help them with that. I hope. All right. So if you're around at 6:30, you don't have to lift heavy. Hi, Norman Bentley. Hi, Kevin and Chris Vaughn. And Barbara Wolf. Good morning to you. Hi, Barbara Shute. Well, I'm sorry about the video. That must be from my side. Okay. Paul Wolf, Judy Sutherland, Joan Riggs, good morning. Hi, Denise. Hi, Ann Winslow. Happy birthday to Cindy. I hope is she on? All right, folks. Yeah, I'm at home today, so it's probably my Wi-Fi. All right, guys. I'm sorry about that. I didn't know what was going on. As I said, this is going to be available later, and it won't have the interruptions in it. So let's pray. Lord, thank you for today, and we just pray that you'll be with us and all folks as we gather on this day. And do it in your name. Thank you for all the people that are here, and we ask that you just cover us all with your grace and your mercy, and that we might come again to gather in your name tomorrow and learn more about your word. We ask all of this in your name. Amen. Amen all. God bless you all. I love you, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Remember, God loves you. So do we here at Allen Park Presbyterian Church. All right. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.